Sup, fucker?
How the hell are you?
I am great. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
You look fantastic.
Oh, thanks. You know, got some product in the hair.
Yeah, it's a little tousled or, you know. Oh, I like it. Oh, shit. Look at that flow. That was nice.
So what do we got today?
Oh, we're going to talk about Area 51. May have heard of it.
It's a little dance club downtown, right?
Something like that. Could be a place for grinder meetups. I don't know. No, it's the secret base just north of Las Vegas. For those who don't know, all like two of you who potentially have never heard of it. No, I think
if you've never heard of Area 51, then you probably don't ever listen to anything.
or watch anything. You've never seen a movie, never read a book, potentially. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, really cool, interesting lore behind Area 51, and because it's been so shrouded in secrecy for so long, that I really think it's kind of caught the public's eye in a big way. That's kind of the turn of the tide where we started really not trusting the government, because like, oh, you've got this secret fucking base that potentially has aliens and alien spacecraft, and you're not saying anything about it.
Yeah, and it's like the rumors were there, and the official statement was that Area 51 doesn't exist, or that there is no secret base or whatever, and then it turns out that it is true. Then it just creates a huge mistrust in anything else that the government
absolutely
tries to tell you. So.
I'm already very mistrusting of the government anyway.
Yeah.
Just, you could swing a dead cat and hit 10 different things that I go, yeah, that's malfeasance within the government.
Yeah.
But I think with Area 51, it's one of the biggest draws because it brings up huge questions for humanity as a whole of,
sure.
Are we alone in the universe? And if these stories are true that you're housing extraterrestrials and their vehicles, like, we have a right to know.
Well, yeah, I think that I could see where they want to keep it a secret, because if it is made public, then it would be like, okay, well, this affects the whole world and all of humanity, so it should be everybody's property, But at the same time, they've found this crazy thing that they can try to, use to back engineer technology, so they want to keep it a secret so that they can forward their own technology without, other people looking at it.
Exactly. And it's funny the way that works, because a lot of, air quotes, whistleblowers talk about the reverse engineering of alien spacecraft. It's not actually done by the government anymore. They release the property to Lockheed, Skunk Works, and McDonnell Douglas, and all these other big like airline companies, and then they patent whatever technology they have, so that it's under lock and key, because you can't look at a patent until it's complete. So as long as it's an ongoing R&D project, it's completely classified by the company.
Yeah. Well, Area 51 has always been, even tied in with Lockheed and stuff like that. Was it Lockheed that made the B? What is it? The B?
So between Lockheed, McDonnell Douglas, and what was the other one? There's one more company. So within Area 51, it was actually started with the Oxcart program, which is an anti-radar system. Sorry, it was started as an airfield.
Yeah.
But when it started going into more R&D projects, the first one was Oxcart, which was an anti-radar program to be able to basically cloak aircraft from enemy radar. But other notable planes that have been researched and developed through Area 51 are the A-12, the D-21, the F-117, the B-2, and most notably the SR-71.
Also the U-2.
Oh, the U-2, yes. Yeah. But it's also crazy to me how closely related Area 51 is to I just drew a fucking blank. That was ridiculous. Los Alamos.
Yeah.
Nuclear research.
Right.
Which was started by Robert J. Oppenheimer. And because they're all kind of in the same circle, in the same area, how closely related all these different projects are.
Yeah. And how closely, I mean, in close proximity to Roswell, New Mexico. I mean, I think it's a couple 100 miles.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, they started making the airstrip in 1955, and the crash was in 47 in Roswell. So, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, Roswell is kind of, in and of itself, a whole nother conversation I do want to get into.
Yeah.
But along with the lines of Area 51 is Wright-Patterson,
mm-hmm.
where the alleged ship and all of its parts from Roswell was taken to Wright-Patterson. Because Area 51 didn't exist at the time.
Right.
And even one thing I found out was that it was named Area 51 in 1960 because it was at the time known as Project 51, because it was the 51st lot that they took control of to make a base on.
Yeah. So yeah, Area 51 throughout the years has been known by a lot of different names or referred to, like Paradise Ranch, that's right next to the Nevada Test and Training Range. Different areas like S4, Groom Lake, Homey Airport, Dreamland, and Edwards Air Force Base, kind of all in this little same area.
That was literally my first and second note.
Oh.
Was alternate names. Yeah, because I've got Groom Lake, Groom Box, Dreamland, Paradise Ranch, so on and so forth. Like all the ones you just listed.
So Groom Box is actually the airspace above.
See,
or the Dream Box or the Red Box.
So Dreamland is actually the airspace.
Yeah, that's
and
what it is.
I watched all these different testimonials from pilots, like both Navy and Air Force pilots, that say they've accidentally flown into Dreamland through that airspace, and they automatically revoked their rights to fly for the military. And some of those guys even talked about, like, yeah, they were, fighter jet pilots, and when they were banned from flying for the military and they got out and they tried to get like commercial airline licenses and all that, like they were banned. They couldn't get anything.
They got shadow banned. Their licenses got shadow banned.
Yeah, they just got completely screwed by accidentally flying into Dreamland airspace.
Wow.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy, but also like it's an airspace that they use for testing, like dogfighting aircraft, and so they're flying at certain speeds, doing radical maneuvers, not just flying in a straight line, and you have just some airplane flying through that shouldn't be there, and all of a sudden, I mean, I could see where it might be potentially really dangerous, but that is a crazy thing.
I agree with that sentiment, but at the same time,
lifelong ban.
Yeah, from all aviation as a whole it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Of like, it's such a closely regarded secret that we're going to punish you for your whole life.
We're going to end your career.
All of it. Yeah, so one of the crazy things that I always think about with Area 51 is the Janet Transportation System. You know what that is?
I do not.
So out of McCarran Airport in Las Vegas is where they transport people from...
The Janet flights.
Yeah, the Janet flights is... They transport the people who work at Area 51 or S4 from McCarran Airport all the way to Area 51, and it's a very short flight.
Mm-hmm.
But it's incredibly guarded. In fact, in the documentary I was watching this morning, look at my notes here. What's it called? Oh, the documentary is called Dreamland by Bruce Burgess was the host of the documentary, and he tried to actually go to the airstrip where those flights take off, and he was just like stonewalled about the whole thing. He tried to go to the corporate headquarters for Janet, and he was stonewalled there too. Basically, all these people telling him, like, fuck off, this is private property.
Yeah.
When he would just ask very simple questions like, is this a military installation or is this privately owned? And they're like, it doesn't matter, it's private property, get out. And then to boot, you also have the fence around Area 51, where it's guarded and patrolled, and by all accounts, people call them the camo dudes. The camo dudes. Where they drive in white SUVs and basically patrol and hold people up at gunpoint if they get too close.
Oh, they're like hired, almost like mercenaries. Like they're just hired private security.
Yeah, they're hired through private contractors.
Yeah.
Which is bananas to me, because if it's a military base, shouldn't it be guarded by military personnel?
Well, you would think so, but the thing with the private security is they don't have to uphold the Geneva Convention, Geneva Code.
Yeah,
you have to abide by certain rules of engagement. So private contractors don't have to go by that.
Exactly, and that's obviously why they were hired so much through like the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, because when you needed a dirty job done, that's who you called.
Yeah.
Because they're not upheld by that. They'll do whatever the hell they want. It's crazy to think about a place that's so like mired in secrecy that people can't even get close to it.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. Not aerial. There's no way you can get a satellite over there. You can't physically get close to it. You can't talk to people about it. Even to this day, and that place has been in operation for 60-something years.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, right?
Well, I think the first images actually came out from a Russian satellite photo. I didn't even think about trying to Google Earth it, but I'd be curious to see what's there. Like if they just like blur it out, or like how if you look at Antarctica, it's just fucking. It almost looks like it's just gray mapped, or just like grayed out. Most of Antarctica is. I don't know if you ever looked at it.
I have, and I keep coming across this really crazy fact about Antarctica. About you remember Encyclopedia Britannicas, when you would buy like the whole set.
Yeah.
So if you looked at them, and I can't remember the date or the year off the top of my head, but if you get them before a certain date, the descriptions of Antarctica talk about these two very large domes that are on the continent.
Really?
And it's you'll have to Google it. Huh. It's worth a Google. But after a certain year, they stopped putting that in there. But I've done the same thing. I went on Google Maps or Google Earth and tried to look it up, and it definitely looks just like washed clean.
Yeah.
Like it's just one white landscape and that's it.
Yeah.
Which to me should raise questions anyway, because it's still going to have mountainous peaks. It's still going to have valleys.
Yeah.
Like it still should show some kind of topography, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's just like blue and gray squares, like ice blue and gray squares. And pixelation, it's weird.
It's that's a whole.
Because it's just an ice wall, really, and they've just kind of like tried to piece it together like a puzzle.
Yeah,
make it look like a continent.
They just like opened up a paintbrush and just like washed it clean.
Mario Paint.
Mario Paint. They photoshopped it. You're just like, let's take a picture of a white piece of paper and let's just copy paste it over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Janet system flies out of McCarran Airport or Harry Reid Airport to Area 51, and I've watched a ton of videos of people actually tracking those flights, and it's the same tail numbers, so they only have like a limited number of planes. Mm-hmm. But some of the whistleblower employees who have worked there talk about trying to see it from a satellite view, and they say a lot of the outside buildings are painted with a sand texture.
Yeah.
And covered in fake sagebrush and things like that to really disguise most of the base. Like what you see from the satellite view is a very small amount, because you're talking an area that's 23 by 25 miles square. Yeah. But you only see like one airstrip and a dozen or so buildings.
Yeah. So in the research that I did, it says that there's 2 airstrips, one that's 3 miles long and one that's 6 miles long. Mm-hmm. And then there's an airstrip. I don't know if it was one of these 2 that they were talking about, or a third one that is camouflaged in a way that if you get it wet, then you can see the landing strip. But when it's dry, it just looks like
Sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about because it so rarely rains there.
Yeah.
That even if you had a satellite, like you'd have to be there at the right moment to see it.
Right. It's like a mirage.
It's a mirage. So, among the conspiracy theories that go on at Area 51, you have reverse engineering of alien spacecraft, meetings with extraterrestrials, energy weapon development, development of weather control devices, and time travel devices. How many of those do you think are more legit?
We've talked about it, before on different episodes. I think that they all seem to be tied together. So if it's one thing that they're working on or trying to develop or back engineering, then it could be related to all those things. So I mean, it could be one thing that they're working on, but also say, okay, we've got this machine that does this certain thing, but we're checking the capabilities on all these other things that are related to it. So I think that, like in the Bob Lazar case where he's talking about the energy drive that they had, who's to say that that energy drive doesn't open up a portal or a thing that travels through time or warps time space? They don't know. And so I think that they can all be connected to that in the same box or whatever.
I think the only one of those that I have a hard time buying into is weather control devices.
Yeah.
Everything else makes perfect sense because you can ask any physicist, time, space, and gravity are all related. So, like in Bob Lazar's description of the spacecraft he worked on, it was an anti-gravity basis of propulsion. Whereas instead of having a forward propulsion, it manipulates gravity around the ship itself. And so you think about even a black hole or a wormhole, because gravity is manipulated, it dilates time differently. Mm-hmm. So those three things are directly correlated, even in a parallel line, you might say. I'm not a physicist, but I'm really close.
Yeah, I've got 2 more semesters.
Yeah, I'm an amateur physicist.
2 more semesters, then I got my associates.
I got my associates. Yeah, I'm like 92 years away from finishing at this rate, but it's fine. But yeah, so time travel, like we've talked about before in the time travel episode, where you can use a black hole that manipulates gravity so heavily that you can dilate time, that you could potentially time travel. So it's not a stretch to me to believe that those two things are directly being worked on together.
Yeah. Especially if you have a gravity drive system like that, you don't know exactly how it works, and you don't know exactly like what exactly it does. And so it's like, okay, so you have to attack it from a couple different angles. Is it going to do this? Is it going to do this? When we turn it on and are able to figure it out. So you have to work. I think that, for me, I would think that you have to come at it from multiple directions just to cover your basis of what could potentially, what you're looking at.
Just to have a very simple explanation of what you're even looking at.
Right.
You have to have a huge array of scientists.
Yeah.
Specialists in their own field. Because you're going to have physicists, theoretical physicists, nuclear physicists, plus mechanical engineers and so on and so forth to even be able to look at this craft and go, how the fuck does this work? But by all accounts of all the whistleblowers, everything is so compartmentalized where they would never actually speak to another person,
right,
unless it was their one work partner.
And they're working on that one specific detail on it.
Exactly.
So they don't get the whole picture.
And that's where it's kind of robbing science as a whole, instead of saying, okay, well, Bob Lazar was, a physicist. But this guy's a theoretical physicist. Like, they should be able to work together and figure out, like, okay, this doesn't just manipulate gravity. We can manipulate time via X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, then they need to have like one fucking just stoner in there coming up with wild ideas.
Dude, you always need a stoner, right?
You know what? I mean, if you look at all the movies, they're like working on a problem, they can't figure it out, and then some person just says some random thing, and then it sparks an idea like, I've got it.
Yeah, no. Independence Day.
Yeah.
Where they're actually at Area 51. And he's like, David, get off the floor. You're going to catch cold. And he's like, oh, shit. That's what I got to do. I got to give this alien technology a virus. Yeah. Even though you did that on a MacBook to technology, you have no idea how it works. Movies got a movie, though.
Well, they had that like space dildo that they attached onto to the aircraft.
Was it a space dildo or was it a nuke?
I don't know. It looked like a space dildo.
I don't know. I think if it's phallic enough, it's all a space dildo.
Yeah. Who's to say, how big vaginas can be in space?
Yeah, and Will Smith was on that craft, and there's been some crazy stories coming out about him and things like that. So who knows? And if you're talking about Will Smith and dildos, he could have just strapped his wife on the bottom of that craft. She's a fucking dildo herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the documentary I watched this morning was called Dreamland. Again, Bruce Burgess is the host, and it covers a lot of different stuff. Obviously, it talked about Bob Lazar, and we'll kind of circle back to that. But one thing that I came across was this one guy's claiming they wouldn't divulge his name, and he was silhouetted. Which, side note, when they silhouette people in these documentaries or these shows, it's like, I can clearly still see who that person is, even if I can't tell his facial features. Like, He's wearing a hat, he's wearing a specific style of glasses. I could see his facial outline, the way he sits. Like, if I had worked with him, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's fucking Bob. I know him. Not very disguising. But he alleges that he worked on building a flying disc simulator to teach pilots how to fly these alien spacecraft. Not just those, but like the reproduction versions that they're working on, allegedly. And his biggest claim was that basically the foreman over the project was an extraterrestrial. He was a gray alien, and they called him J-Rod.
J-Rod.
J-Rod. What a fucking cool name.
Yeah.
Go to another planet and you get named J-Rod.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's name is J-Rad.
J-Rad? J-Rad?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty bodacious claim, and it's so intriguing. But they did the same thing to that guy as they did to Bob Lazar, and they go, oh yeah, well, he says he worked here at this time, but at this time we have records that he was a parole officer and he was going to this school at that time. And to me, it seems like almost a trope with all these whistleblowers from Area 51, where the first thing they do to try to discredit them is go after their education,
yeah,
or their timeline.
Yeah.
But some of them, they got nothing. Do you think that's just like strange, or is it like a protocol?
I think that it's definitely a protocol. Like, I think that whether they, the government goes through and deletes their background as soon as they're hired, or if it's just like after they become a whistleblower, then it's just like their history is kind of... I mean, if they've got connections to keep secrets from the public about, building or having aliens, they can definitely wipe out somebody's education records.
Oh, for sure.
So, I mean, I think that it's probably protocol to... I mean, they do the background checks and they have their whole history, and, as soon as something happens, they just wipe them off the face of the earth, basically. I mean, if they wanted to, or just like create some fake shit that, oh look, we've got video of you in a strip club in China at this time.
Yeah, and I think that's what's also interesting is the way the people that they've chosen to do these jobs or go in for the reverse engineering or engineering of a new project is they pick these people who have slightly checkered past, or as I like to call it, normal fucking people.
Yeah.
Where, like in Bob Lazar's case, he was involved in a prostitution ring thing. Basically, he was trying to start a brothel. Where
who doesn't usually?
I would. I'd do it right now. But yeah, where it's easy to pick a person like that, where he has the credentials and the knowledge and the skills to actually work on these things. But in his personal life, there's
also like easy scapegoat.
Exactly, where they can go, yeah, no, this guy's running a prostitution ring. Why would we hire him? Like, you'd hire him because he's fucking smart.
Right.
You just picked him specifically because he had this thing to where if he decided to sing, then you could discredit him by going, yeah, he's running a prostitution ring.
Kind of like how we pick our elected leaders nowadays.
Yeah. Except they just deny. No, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Or
that's I never really thought about that. Like, I just always thought that it was just so easy for them to manipulate the information about that person but actually choosing somebody that has something in their history that they can point towards, I mean, makes sense.
Well, even in Bob Lazar's case, where his phones were tapped and everything, like, the people who listen in knew that his wife was cheating on him and that they were going to get a divorce and everything like that, and they basically used that against him to keep him from speaking out.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that... So in my recollection of the Bob Lazar story, it was that he was actually... So he was working at, Area 51, doing the back engineering of the supposed crashed alien spacecrafts. And they started, not using him, bringing him in, because they had found these conversations that his wife had been having and found out she was having an affair. He didn't know it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it, and so they just kept him off the project. And then because they thought he'd be mentally unstable, he found out.
There was a certain amount of overlap with that, where they went, okay, let's use him for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Until they found out, and then they were like, okay, yeah, don't call him in.
Yeah.
Which is just fucked up.
Yeah.
From a human aspect of like, damn, I feel so bad for this guy. You're like the guy listening in on all the conversation. You go, God, this fucking sucks. I kind of want to tell him,
Yeah.
The government's just fucked up.
Shady.
Let's talk about one of the really comedic things about Area 51 before we get into Bob Lazar and all that. Storm Area 51.
Dude, I wanted to go.
I wanted to go too because I thought we were legit going to storm the gates and nothing happened.
Oh, yeah, I mean... Yeah, you can see the people that were super outspoken about it. I mean, I knew they weren't going to do it.
No. Well, I love the tagline to that whole campaign was, "They can't stop us all." Which basically means they don't have enough bullets to kill all of us.
Yeah, but who's going first?
Right? Who's taking the front line on that?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you have to look. You have to know that these guys that are out there aren't military, so it's like they have authorization to shoot anybody that crosses the line. Who knows how many people these people have actually killed? And so they wouldn't have a problem. I mean, the law would be on their side, I guess.
To a large degree. I mean, I was actually thinking about this when I was kind of looking into information about that, because there was this one reporter who did this whole expose on what actually happened and how it went and all that, and I was like, all these people showed up and it was just like a big party, right? Yeah. Nothing happened. Nobody stormed the gates. A few people did the Naruto run and just looked dumb.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you were legit going to storm the gates, and I kind of hope there's a government official listening, because I can think outside the box if you need some problem solved, is I would have just got 100 different people with trucks, like pickups, and I would have just had them like line up with their truck facing away from the gate, and all the trucks have to have backup cameras, and we just all drive backwards at the same time. We're just going to mow that fucking gate down and keep going till we get to the building.
Yeah.
And then everybody else just follow on foot.
Solid plan.
I would have got in there.
Storm the gates 2025?
Yeah, I'm down. You got plans next year?
Not that I know of.
Don't have any plans for the year after that. We're probably going to get shot.
Yeah. Or super fucking arrested, dude.
Yeah, mega arrested.
Yeah.
No rights,
They'll put
no
out
trial.
that we're dead, but we're really in the facility getting dissected and shit.
Or probed.
Probed, yeah.
Yeah.
Go for a probing, I guess.
Yeah, spit on it first. That's all I'm asking.
Just give me a reach around while you're probing me. Be a gentleman.
Yeah, be a good guy. Good guys do reach arounds. It was so funny to me, like when that whole campaign went out, and everybody online is talking about it, and it's just like everywhere on social media.
Yeah. So that was it. Was it 2020?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So this was before COVID, or like
Yeah,
it was like right.
It was July 2019. So let me ask you this question, because I was going to kind of come around to the COVID thing. Do you think if that came about in July of 2020, it would have been a different story?
I think there would probably be more people there. Well, I don't know, because July was like everybody was super scared.
That's what I'm saying, is not only were people really scared at that time, there was a ton of civil unrest.
Yeah.
And that was the summer of 2020, air quotes, the summer of love.
It was a protest, though. I mean, it could be considered a protest, so people could go to it in masses, right? But yeah, I mean, there'd probably be a lot more people there because people weren't working.
Well, you think about all the like cities that were being devastated by all the huge amounts of civil unrest and, again, air quotes, protesting. It wasn't protesting; it's people just breaking shit because they're mad.
Yeah.
So what if you had actually done that at that time? Do you think they would have been like, "Fuck it, let's storm the gates. What else do we got to lose?"
The fucking storm the gates people should have,
Storm the gates.
got organized with the rioters the next year.
Dude, that's what it's got to be. All those Antifa people who show up and stage pallets of bricks and everything, like they should have worked hand in hand with them.
Stage like wire cutters.
Yeah. People are up there just trying to cut wires while they're getting shot. As soon as they get shot and drop them, the next person picks up that same pair. Gotta keep going.
Just get an angle grinder and go through the fence.
Or a line of 150 pickup trucks driving in reverse.
Maybe you could do cyber trucks.
Ooh.
I don't know if there's 150 cyber trucks out there, but
I saw one the other day.
bulletproof.
I saw one downtown.
Really?
And it was like, that's just as ugly as I thought it would be
You
in
know
real life.
What was it like the gray?
No, it was actually wrapped. It was like a company had it, and they had their logo and everything on there.
So I saw a picture of some rapper that was flossing his new Cybertruck. I can't remember what it was. It was just on like Instagram or something. But he had it. It was flat black, and then it had like fucking 30-inch rims, spokes, like the spoke rims.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked pretty fucking dope. Not gonna lie,
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Cool. I mean, I wouldn't drive it. I mean, I would drive it.
But you wouldn't pay for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for a Tesla anyway. I'm not hating on Tesla. They're great cars. They do really cool things, but they're way out of my price range.
Oh yeah. If I was Elon Musk, I'd drive a Cybertruck for sure.
Oh yeah. If I was Elon Musk, I would have paid people to fucking rush the gates.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Elon, if you're listening, where were you?
Yeah, hook it up, dude. You got the cash flow.
You can pay Antifa.
Stop buying fucking social media programs that real people don't actually use.
Have you ever had Twitter?
Yeah, I had it for a minute for like the
Porn.
airsoft thing. No, there's plenty of other sources for porn. It's way easier to use. No, I had it for the airsoft thing for a minute, and I was like, this is dumb. Twitter or X is for celebrities. That's it. Nobody else is going to look at your stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I've never had it. I've never been like a real big poster of anything really. So
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple of like more basic questions because I really do want to go like balls deep into the whole Bob Lazar story because there's so much out there and there's so much that's so interesting.
let's go balls deep into Bob.
But hold on, I gotta give you a couple other questions.
Okay.
So these are just more like blanket, give me your opinion ones. For one, do you think Area 51 is a hoax?
No.
No, you legit believe there's something going on there.
Well, I mean, to answer the question fully, I believe that Area 51 is a real place that they do secret testing on. I do believe that they do have a lot of secret projects that involve technologies that we don't even have the imagination for. Whether those are alien or not, speculative. I can't say.
That was a very good answer. I like that. No, I 100% agree. I try not to speculate too much, but I think that there's so many stories that it's hard to ignore the speculation.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's been a secret testing facility for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at all the aircrafts that have come out of there that have revolutionized avionics.
Right.
So that's a cold hard fact. Rather they have the other things is actually kind of my next question is do you think there are alien spacecrafts or even aliens at Area 51/S4?
I really want to believe Bob Lazar's stories because I've seen a lot of different things on him, and I believe that he was really there working on things that had no explanation, whether they were alien as of outside of our world. I don't know. Like I've said before in previous podcasts, what if it really is just time travelers that are from our world, just from a different timeline or, dimension or whatever.
So do I believe that there's alien spacecraft there or aliens? Yeah, honestly. Granted, that's pure speculation, and
Right.
that's me kind of feeding on the conspiracies, but it's like, it's not a stretch for me to believe that. Aliens as a whole, like you were saying, are they from a different time or dimension? That's the big debate in my mind. Because when you hear a lot of these people talk like Stephen Greer or Rick Doty or any of these other guys who are allegedly on the inside track, and they talk about all these different species of aliens, it's kind of narrow-minded to just say they're just from another planet.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like going back to time, space, gravity, warping, and time travel and things like that. How hard is it to really grasp the concept to say, like, maybe this specific species of aliens is us from the future,
Mm-hmm.
or this is an interdimensional species, or this is an extra-dimensional species, or
Yeah.
this is a species that's literally from a parallel universe, or whatever. And again, to beat a dead horse, it's either all bullshit or none of it is.
Yeah.
So to me, there's no limitation on what alien means.
Right. And that's what I was getting at, was like alien in which way, like they're from Mars or just outside of our solar system that we can physically see, or it's something that's all around us all the time. We just don't have access to it or don't understand how to access it right now. I mean,
Exactly. It's
these other species have, figured out how to cross through that barrier of our understanding of consciousness to cross through into our plane, and then we're just totally like trying to figure out a way to explain what these things are.
Yeah, and I'm sure for the people who actually deal with those aliens or whatever, huge air quotations there, the people who deal with them, maybe they have more of an understanding than we could ever have. But I look at it as like all possibilities are infinite and happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it like so hard for people to grasp the concept of aliens? But when I do think of the term alien, I just think of non-human or a non-terrestrial species from the planet Earth. Because you could look at, a cat is from Earth too. So they're kind of terrestrial in their own way. But something that comes from outside of our little tiny blue marble in the grand spec of things, yeah, there's got to be other life forms out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, then I definitely believe that they are working on alien technology at Area 51.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever heard about the alien reproduction vehicles?
So I've heard that they were working. That's what they were working on. There was like trying to recreate. It's like recreating the spaceships that they found that were crashed. So that's my understanding of what they are. But
so if you ever watch the Y-Files on YouTube, great channel. I love
the
that.
guy with the fish, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hecklefish.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah.
That should be like an actual TV show. It's one of those rare YouTube channels that you go like the quality, the production, the idea, the effort that gets put into it. Like this should be like somebody needs to be paying him shitloads of money to keep doing this show because it's so good
on a regular basis. Like.
Yeah. Instead, he just does it out of his own pocket. Anyway, that's a little sidetrack. But he does an episode on alien reproduction vehicles, and he talks about this one guy. I think he was an engineer, and he was like in town for a golf tournament, and he kind of wandered into this hangar, and I can't remember like exactly how it worked together, but he like wandered into this hangar where this military guy was giving a presentation on this new vehicle, like new aircraft, and they unveiled it, and it was like a flying saucer. And the military guy was talking about, this was reverse engineered from an alien spacecraft that we recovered. We were able to build their technology based on our materials. And he's just like, I'm not fucking supposed to be here. What is going on?
I think there's been some kind of a mistake.
Yeah, I was looking for the bathroom. It's such a crazy story, and I highly recommend anybody go check it out. But the way he talks about it is that was just one of several models that were unveiled. Because in the presentation, they talk about like the previous models that were unveiled, and in the future they have like the X5 model and the X6 and the Ultra Sport and all these other things. Apparently, they've been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, minimum since Roswell.
Yeah. We're the first recorded capturing of a...
recorded.
Alleged recorded.
Well, and that kind of ties into the Bob Lazar thing. And I think we should just go hard on it.
Okay.
But when he talks about... At one point, he saw 9 different spacecraft, and he thought one of them was from an archaeological dig.
Mm-hmm.
It's not far-fetched at all in my mind to go, alien spacecraft have landed or crash-landed on this planet many times.
Why would they only start in the 1940s?
Exactly. So
they've been around for millions of years.
When he talks about we found one from potentially an archaeological dig, that's not a stretch at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it crashed 1,000 years ago and nobody came to get it. But somebody was, digging for pots or something from Mesopotamia and was like, what the fuck is this?
Maybe they came to fly by and see the dinosaurs, and then, they hadn't been here in a couple million years, and then flew by to see the dinosaurs and saw these, like, ape creatures walking around fucking rolling stones and shit.
Beating people with sticks.
Yeah. Like, oh, these people are weird. These creatures are funny. Why don't we go have sex with them?
That's the Anunnaki right there.
Yeah.
That's how you get Nephilim.
Yep.
Anunnaki mate with humans and they create Nephilim.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about the size difference, you go, that sounds painful.
Yowzers.
Because the Anunnaki were like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
So you got to imagine.
I don't know. Have you? I mean, I've seen Shaquille O'Neal with some pictures with some broads that are probably only about 5 feet tall. So.
Well, I mean, that's only a problem if there's a proportional correlation.
Yeah.
If your dick size is proportional to your height, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Especially if you're only 5 feet tall.
Well, yeah, I've seen some videos where the internet is wild.
Super wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I really think that like extraterrestrial beings have been visiting our planet and our dimensional existence for ever, like for a long time. But talking about like doing like how technology progresses here on Earth, how they're back engineered these models and they keep getting better, reproducing better and better models or replicas. If you think about that, how more advanced are the actual crafts of the beings that are that made them at this point?
You know, I always like try to put that same thought into a different correlation of like, remember early last year when it was 4 or 5 different incidences within a few weeks of each other where UFOs were shot down.
Yeah.
So there was 2 or 3 here in America, there was one in China, and I think there was one in Russia. And they all happened within a few weeks of each other.
You mean weather balloons?
Yeah, weather balloons. No, and then they landed in the ice, and they were like, well, we can't go fish it out, the water's too cold. Like, dude, it's been a year. Where are they at? I know you've been down there and got them. But you look at that, and then you hear the testimony from so many other fighter pilots for the last 50 or 60 years that talk about we can't even get close to them. We can't shoot them down. They shut our system down to where we can't even lock onto them. We can't fire on them. They do all this crazy banana shit to our technology that makes them impossible to get a hold of. But magically, last year we were able to shoot down 4 or 5 of these different objects with essentially the same technology that we've had for decades.
Yeah.
It's less about, oh, no, we shot down aliens. It's more like, no, we shot down somebody else's reproduction vehicle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the math just doesn't add up there.
Yeah, when they were saying they were shooting down UAPs, like, I had no doubt that it wasn't actual fucking, like, alien technology, but, like, fucking Ted from down the streets, fucking replica. No, I mean, I don't think that we would even have anything that could try to compete with anything that.
Not a chance.
Like I mean, if they are extraterrestrials coming from, 20 or 30 light years away, traveling all that distance through space, they would have the technology to wipe us off the face of the earth if they wanted to, or deflect anything. Just like on Mars attacks where they shoot them like with a nuclear weapon, and then they collect it in this little thing and then smoke it.
Yeah.
Or inhale it, and it makes them talk like they've inhaled helium.
I haven't seen that movie in so long. Yeah, it's silly to me, especially when you hear all the stories over the years of people who have worked at nuclear missile silos, and these UFOs hover over the silo and they shut down the nuclear weapons remotely.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me they can go over there and shut down a nuclear weapon remotely, but they can't figure out a way to deflect a ballistic missile fired from an airplane? Like, no, get fucked. Especially when they have the capabilities that we know they have. of making instantaneous turns, being transmedium, going from space to atmosphere to water seamlessly. Like when they go into water, they don't even make a splash. They're not wet when they come out. Like, obviously, I'm kind of speculating a little bit and going off of other people's testimony. But when thousands of people are saying the same shit, you kind of have to take it as fact. But the reality is yeah, this one missile that, you know, this like $500,000 missile fired from an F-35, they can't deflect that? Nah. Don't give me that shit.
I think it's hard for people to believe that we're not the greatest civilization ever. I mean, it's all that we know, for sure, you know, as reality. But, and you look at our military and see all these new things that they have and superior weapons that they have, and to think that they're just, you know, spitting at these other advanced technologies, are just laughing in their faces, you know.
Do you think they're ever like on their spacecraft and there's like an F-35 just flying at them and shoots a missile and they're like, oh, this fucking guy.
Oh, look.
It's adorable.
Grab it, let's take it home and put it on the mantle.
I'm going to take that home for my kid. Yeah. He's going to love this.
You're giving us a rocket.
You come home with a missile from Earth. You're like, hey, son, I brought you this. They're like, oh, what the fuck is that? Apparently, it's a device they think they can use to knock us down. Joke's on them.
Yeah, I would think that if they've been visiting us for a number of years, they would know exactly what our capabilities are and have no fear whatsoever.
Well, I actually think a lot of our technology is from alien technology. Yeah. And the basis of my theory there is you had the Roswell crash in 1947. And some of what was found was taken to the nearby college, and I can't remember the name of the college, but it was examined by just a few people, but a few years later, that same group of people started coming out with resistors and capacitors and things like that. Things that actually revolutionized our technology as a species. And I even just look at the timeline, and I've said this before, where the bow and arrow was the primary weapon for like 400 or 500 years until gunpowder was invented, and then we started kind of crawling along with firearms. But if you take that same paradigm and apply it to avionics, where the first flight was in 1906 with the Wright brothers, but you go 63 years later and we put men on the moon, we're not that fast. We're not that smart. Yeah. So comparing like that huge leap in technology within the realm of like these crashes, these alien crashes, and it wasn't just Roswell. There was multiple that happened across the span of decades. Who's to say we didn't just find that technology and figure out a way to recreate it based on our silicone-based technology that we use even today? I mean, shit, you could apply the same logic to phones. Yeah. Like the first real home phones came out in the late 30s and early 40s, and here we are 80 years later, and you have a device in your pocket that is all the devices in one. It's a phone, it's a dictionary, it's an encyclopedia, it's a messaging system, it's a telegraph, it's all of that shit all together in one thing that's in your pocket at all times. Yeah. So what is the like initial technology or idea for that technology that fed the drive, or gave the ideas for, I can see that. Well, it's, even if you look at like Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek from the 60s and how many super revolutionary ideas he had of like essentially FaceTime, or the communicators that were, the size of a quarter that you tap on your chest and you could talk to anybody, anywhere, and some of those other things, like where did those ideas come from? Was he just like really creative and that informed on society of like, dude, we could create that? Yeah. Or maybe in some way, shape, or form, he had a glimpse into technology that was captured from another species. I don't know if that's
Curious
fact.
to
I'm only
know
speculating.
What types of drugs that guy was doing.
Dude, I was just about to say, what psychedelics was he taking?
I got to take a piss real quick. Yeah, we always bring it back around to psychedelics. So,
That's because they're great.
yeah, I mean, they open up a whole. Like I've said before, I believe it changed your brain chemistry to be more open to receive energy frequencies that we're not used to or don't deal with on a daily basis, so that you're more open to connect with, different dimensions. Or
I agree with that, but I also think about something you said earlier of you got to have a stoner in the room. So what if Gene Roddenberry was just like sitting around with his buddies and they're writing the script for Star Trek, and he's like, so what if on the big screen they were able to see and talk to each other? And his buddy's like, dude, that's great. What if they had a little coin thing on their chest where they could talk to each other?
it could be shaped like the ship. Great idea.
Oh, I got to double down on that. Because one dude was like, what if they had a machine where you could just tell it what you wanted to eat or drink and it would make it for you? Because I'm fucking starving, dude. See, I'm not wrong.
And where's that technology now? Like, I'm waiting for that.
Dude, I'm all in. Like, you wouldn't even have to meal prep.
Yeah.
You could just be like, yeah, I'm eating healthy this week. Chicken and rice and broccoli.
Bing.
Boom. And it's just there.
You'd have to have a better sound effect though than fucking microwave.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I don't know what sound it would have. It'd be like, time to eat, motherfucker. Or something, I don't know.
Your broccoli and chicken is ready.
It's prepared. So yeah, the Bob Lazar thing, I've always just been absolutely fascinated with, even before like that Netflix documentary came out. So for those who don't know, Bob Lazar worked at S4 Papoose Lake, or a subsidiary of Area 51, for about a year, and he was contracted to work there because he was a physicist, and his job was to help reverse engineer the power source of a captured alien spacecraft. And after about a year of working there, like we talked about, with his divorce and a lot of things that he went through, he finally decided to go public. So he went on a television network with George Knapp, and at first he was blurred, so he didn't give away his identity. But he started receiving death threats and people threatening to murder his wife and all these other things, so he decided to go public and show his face and say his name so that he would be much more conspicuous. So if they did off him, it was more to make him in the right than anything. Smart play on his behalf.
Yeah.
Clearly a smart guy.
Why didn't he just be like, yeah, fuck that bitch, kill her?
She was cheating on me, dude. Off her.
No, yeah, it's a really intriguing, and also there's evidence to back up his claims. Like, even though they tried to wipe out his history of like being working there, there are like logs of him logging in certain areas there, or written logs of him being there in that area.
There is, and also to his employment background, where he was hired to work at Area 51 through working at Los Alamos.
Yeah.
And when people try to dig in, the people at Los Alamos are like, yeah, we've never had a Robert Lazar work here, or Bob Lazar, or whatever, until a phone book came about that had his name, his number, and his extension.
Yeah.
And so that proved it. Plus he had like his ID badge and some other things that like actually proved he was there.
Yeah.
And there was another guy, he came forward to George Knapp, but he wouldn't go public, where he was like, yeah, I remember working at Los Alamos with Bob Lazar, like directly working with him.
Mm-hmm.
If that guy would have came out, it would have added so much more credibility, but at the same time, I get it. You don't want to deal with the notoriety and being involved in all of that.
Yeah. And also, like, if it was all bullshit, then why has he been targeted for so long with, like, after he stopped working there, he created another company It was like a research and development company, and his business was raided by
multiple times
by the FBI and all these other agencies that.
That's what I found really interesting in that documentary was him and Jeremy Corbell had like a private conversation about Bob potentially being in possession of Element 115, and Element 115 was the element that allegedly powered the alien spacecraft he worked on. But as the story goes, he smuggled a piece out, and he allegedly had built a small particle accelerator in his house in the event that if he was captured or something, he could activate it, and it would basically level like 10 city blocks. I don't know how true that is.
Huh.
It kind of sounds like horseshit, but it's like, Bob Lazar's a fucking smart guy.
Yeah.
Do I put it past him? Not at all.
Yeah.
Did it happen? I don't know.
It's a cool fucking story, though.
Right?
Well, I also know that, like, Bob has been approached multiple times for doing, like, a movie deal.
Yeah.
And he's turned it down because he wants the actual story to be told, and Hollywood comes into it and tries to tell a dramatic big tale, but he wants it to be the truth and like stick to the script, whereas they want to make it probably something more.
Yeah, Hollywood definitely wants to Hollywoodize everything versus because I remember hearing him talk about it, and he's like, I don't want to put in all these nonsense or all these things that didn't happen. I only want that story to be told. And in my mind, it makes sense of why you wouldn't make a movie out of that, because it's not going to be like a super compelling movie. It's not going to be like a 3-act thing where you have the big crescendo at the end or a plot twist or anything like that. It's just going to be basically a documentary.
Yeah.
Which they already did, but...
Well, it's even... I mean, that... You look at the Travis Walton case, The Fire in the Sky, and he even talks about it in interviews where he says that he wasn't happy with the movie just because it wasn't super, everything wasn't accurate. There's, differences that they had to put in the story to tell a more captivating story, I guess, whereas he wanted to just tell the story as he recalls it, as the facts that he can remember, which might not be as compelling, but it's the truth.
Well, the movie Fire in the Sky is a pretty entertaining movie.
Yeah.
But you look at it through the lens of not knowing Travis Walton's story and how he describes things, and that movie's fine by itself, but when you compare it to his actual story, you're like, that's not even fucking close.
Yeah.
They super dramatized it to sell it as something other than what it really was. Right. I mean, in his case, where when he was like zapped and went unconscious, it was because of something that happened with the ship and it hurt him, and they brought him aboard to fix him.
Yeah.
Versus in the movie, they just captured him for no ass reason and was just like, hey, let's put you in this giant condom thing and torture you, basically. And that's not even close to what he talks about.
Yeah.
It's just dramatized for the sake of dramatization.
Yeah.
Movie's got a movie.
Movie's got a movie.
But yeah,
Bob Lazar story. I think there's enough there that they can make a pretty decent movie out of. I mean, especially if you're just going on factual, true events, like this is what happened and this is my story. That's all it has to be.
I think so too. I don't subscribe to the whole you have to make a classic form story to make a good movie.
Yeah.
You could totally just tell the actual story, and not embellish everything or make everything so big and grandiose. Just show me like a visual of what he went through, and I would be enthralled in it. And
kind of like 300. It was just a true, factual.
100%. Those guys all had abs, all of them. No, I kind of think of that more in the vein of like Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm going to get some shit for saying this, but Oppenheimer is kind of a boring movie. And I love Christopher Nolan movies, and I love all the actors in that movie, but it's a tale that didn't really translate into a film the way that I would have been really enthused to watch. Like, it was still a good movie, but there was a lot of it that it was just like, I don't care about any of this. None of this part matters to me. It's just like, show me how he went from just being a student to building an A-bomb.
Yeah.
Like, all the rest was just kind of, it was there, you know. Just like if they made a Bob Lazar movie, you don't need to go into the drama about his ex-wife cheating on him. Like, that doesn't really play into the story for me.
I mean, it could play into the story of why they didn't want him to work there anymore. Or cut him from there, but they don't have to go into the whole...
Exactly. You don't have to break it down for 30 minutes of the movie, you know. I'm more interested in the alien stuff, the tech, what he actually saw and what he went through. Especially
because he's really... I mean, if you've ever listened to any of his stuff, he's really detailed about what he saw and what he experienced, and I mean, there's definitely enough there to paint a picture on screen. Like,
you know what I love the most about his story is that he's been telling the exact same story for almost 40 years now.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed. He hasn't wavered. Again, like you were saying with the movie deals and all that, where he's been offered lucrative sums of money for his story and things like that, and he refuses to do that. That just shows integrity, which means to me, he's most likely not lying.
Yeah.
Which, granted, in my book, I think his story is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if anybody doesn't know, like, one of the things that he talked about was this element 115. That wasn't, you know, it was he was saying it was a speculative new molecule that they were working with, and everybody thought he was lying. He's like, there's no such thing as element 115, but now there is.
It's
a real thing now, and so I think that also leads credibility to him and his story.
I agree. Yeah, like you said, he had talked about element 115 for more than a decade, and people are like, there's no such thing, it doesn't exist or whatever. And then in a lab in Russia, and I think it was in 2008.
Yeah, and he was talking about this in
1980, 88, 89, you know, 20 years later, it was proved that that's an actual viable element. We just don't have the technology to create it in mass.
Yeah.
So that lended a huge amount of credibility to his story. And if I was him, I would have been like, dude, I'm getting drunk tonight. Like,
yeah,
you just gave me a huge amount of credibility after the last 20 years of you guys, like, trying to dismantle my life to tell me I'm wrong and I'm lying and all this other shit. But it's like, eat it.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
And then also the way they would scan in at the base there at S4 or wherever it was he was mainly working at Area 51 was a thing that he would put his hand on, and it would scan your hand,
the length of the bones in your hand.
And everybody said that was crazy, and then come to find out they found one of these machines that actually does that.
Yeah, when they show him the pictures and don't even tell him what it is, and he's like, I didn't think I'd ever see one of these again. Yeah. And he knew exactly what it was. Like, there's always a little shadow of doubt where, like, yeah, he could be lying. He could just be, like, faking it. But the look he had on his face was very convincing to me that he knew exactly what that was.
Yeah.
But even to point of credit on that one, you remember the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith?
Yeah.
Where he was trying to sell all these bone density scanners. That is the exact same technology at the same time.
Yeah.
So that technology existed.
So we knew about it.
Yeah. But to me, it was more like that was such an under-the-radar technology, because I kind of went down the rabbit hole after I watched that movie. I was like, what is this machine? Like, how does it work? What does it do? But yeah, it existed, but people didn't want to buy it because it was mostly experimental tech.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently the government was like, no, it's useful to us.
Yeah, you'd think that. Yeah, I think that how many things that get developed that the government just picks up and hides, like, oh shit, this technology could be real. We're going to buy up the property and buy the rights, and nobody else is going to
kill the person who made it.
Yeah,
just like all the Cars that run on water.
Yeah, exactly.
No, those don't exist.
I mean, alleged cars that run on alleged water. Allegedly.
Air quotes. It's classified.
We don't have clearance for that information.
Yeah, no. Which is unfair. Unfortunate. Yeah, I think one of the other things that lends his story more credibility is the fact that he would bring his friends out to the desert to watch these aircraft or spacecraft take off in flight, because he himself admitted that while he was on the job, he only ever saw one fly one time, but he knew the flight schedule of when they would take him out and try him out, and they would do it at dark and things like that. And he would bring different groups of friends all the time. And at one point, he even captured it on video of one of these captured UFOs or UAPs taking off from Area 51.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not just him telling this story. He's got a few friends that have seen it themselves and are just probably too afraid to come forward.
Yeah.
Which I would be too. I mean, look what happened to his life. He's just went through hell because of the whole thing. He was trying to better science and the community of science with what he was doing, and all he's had to do is face hardship for it.
Yeah. I think that, I want to say it was Bob Bigelow that was saying that he even went out there with him.
Yeah, at one point he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there with George Knapp and Bob Lazar watching these things, and then actually they got kicked out of there.
Yeah, they did. Well, the last time he went there, he was arrested. Yeah. Him and his whole friend group were arrested, and they detained him for like 3 days or something like that, and was trying to interrogate him and all these other things, and they had to let him go. He wasn't actually on the property of the U.S. government. He was on public land, but, you know, the government can do what they want, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially if nobody knows about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people know about it now, but at the time, there wasn't nobody coming to save him.
You're just a dead skeleton in the middle of the desert, man.
You're just one of many.
Yep.
Yeah. So I do think his story has a lot of credibility. The problem is the way they try to discredit him, and there are even factors that he puts out there that show some kind of discrediting natures of like somebody asked him, like, what year did you graduate from MIT? And he's like, oh, I don't remember. Like, how the fuck do you not remember when you graduated from MIT?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big milestone in your life.
I mean, with all the bizarre shit that's happened in his life, maybe it's just one of those mundane things now that, like, I've got so much crazy information in my brain I can't remember the date. I mean, I don't know. I guess I graduated from high school, I can remember that date, but I haven't had fucking encounters with alien technology, so...
That's a solid point. I never looked at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
With everything he's gone through, it's probably easy to forget something that happened, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
So I've got a question for you. With all the
answer is yes.
With all the information and leaked, air quotations, stories about Area 51 and its high profile, in the public domain information, but do you think that they're still housing and working on those alien technologies there?
For sure. And I actually thought about that as another question in regards to the Area 51 raid. Like, do you think that they moved everything or put it in a more secretive place just in case they actually got raided? And the only reason I didn't ask that was because we know how it went, and we knew the likelihood of, even if they did push and they did try to raid, they weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And nobody was going to get held accountable or anything like that. So I didn't even bother. But it did kind of spur me to think of that same question of, is all of that still happening there? Absolutely. Why would they change it? Nobody's going in there. There's almost no oversight. There's no... Even when you listen to all these, like, high-end government officials, senators and congressmen, or even the president in many times have pushed to go to Area 51 or get all that information, and they get stonewalled. Nobody's getting in there.
Yeah.
Why would they stop doing what they've been doing, knowing that they're basically untouchable? What do you think?
I think that Area 51 now is probably, I mean, according to data, it says that Area 51 just keeps on expanding, building-wise. Like they're building more stuff out there over the years. But I think that, in my mind, it would be easier, especially as technology moves forward, instead of revamping your old systems of doing work and technological research. It would be easier just to build a new facility somewhere else as technology advances.
Oh, you mean like West Utah?
Or like Area 52, also known as Dugway.
Dugway. And it's funny, I was...
Which they I mean, if you look at Dugway's... if you look it up online, it says it's like the most technologically advanced installment that they have for that type of work.
So Dugway is a very, very interesting thing because it has a lot of those kind of Area 51 roots where it's very secretive. But I think they have done a better job at trying to dispel things by having a more surface level thing where people who are in the military who go out to Dugway actually go through some of the tunnels and things like that because it's massively underground.
Yeah.
And there's very little up on top, just like Area 51 is. But where they have kind of these base level military people going into the tunnels and they go, yeah, it's super weird. You drive through this like 3-mile tunnel to get to this underground facility or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's cool because they're showing you that amount to try to maybe throw you off the scent. But what's underneath is even bigger.
Yeah.
And it's out in the middle of the fucking desert. Nobody goes out there for like anything.
Yeah. There really aren't like actual roads that really go out there.
No, it's like all dirt roads.
Yeah.
And most of them are not marked. And it's funny because I've actually talked to probably 4 or 5 different people over the last like 10 years or so that have accidentally stumbled onto dug-away land. And they're met with soldiers with loaded firearms pointed right at them, telling them, get the fuck out of here. There's been multiple people, like people from different walks of life and things like that, who just accidentally stumble out there because, like, the only thing that's out there is basically off-road roads for ATVs, UTVs, and dirt bikes. So it happens from time to time that people just, like, go over that line
they're not aware of.
Or get too close to it. Like, even if they don't hit the fence, they still own enough land away from the fence that they can still patrol that, and it's still under their thumb.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
So interesting enough, my wife was actually approached by somebody that she knows that wanted to hire her as a coordinator for security. Their security, kind of as like a person that does, almost like a HR for their security personnel.
Okay,
Just
I've
as,
never
like,
heard this
scheduling and
story.
stuff like that. This was just like a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Well, she told me about a month ago that this lady had approached her last summer or something about this position that was open because she works at Dugway as a security, something to do with in the security. And she's like, yeah, the schedule was weird. It was kind of like your schedule, a rotating like DuPont schedule type thing, and I'd have to be out there. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Even if they only paid you $5 an hour, you could have got the inside track.
Yeah.
I'm kind of let down right now.
Yeah. Me too. But I kind of want to mount a camera on the back of my house, like on the roof, just to watch the sky over there. Because my back of my house faces
The
that
direction
mountain
of
range there,
Dugway.
and it's just over that mountain range right there is Dugway. So, kind of want to just put something out there because I've seen stuff out there at night that looks weird. Not like airplanes.
You know, it's funny you mention that because I was going to come around to this question of have you seen like UFOs or UAPs in your area because you're much closer to Dugway than I am. But even at my house at the edge of West Valley, when I was a smoker, I would go out on the back porch and smoke, and the back side of the house faces west. So I'm looking right at the Oakers. And we're also in the flight line for SLC International. So I see planes come and go all the time. Mm-hmm. And I even went on the website, and I can't remember what it is. I bookmarked it, so I didn't have to remember it. But like in real time, you can see what flights are overhead of you at any given moment. And there's been 4 or 5 different times where I've seen UFOs or UAPs flying around at very high altitudes and doing maneuvers that normal planes just absolutely cannot do. And the most memorable one of mine was, I remember I was on the back porch and I was with my dad and we were smoking, and I can hear a helicopter. And when you hear a helicopter and it's that loud, it's flying really low. So this helicopter kind of comes into my peripheral view, and he's maybe only flying like 6, 7, maybe 800 feet off the ground. And it's a Black Hawk. And I'm like, oh shit, is he transporting an alien spacecraft or something? Just like kind of making a joke to myself in my head if he's like chaperoning it or whatever. And then I happen to look up and I can see these 2 objects, just like these round kind of whitish grayish balls, and they're maneuvering around each other like they're playing, just doing these kind of crazy circles and maneuvers that planes cannot do. Like, not our technology cannot do these things. But they're kind of dancing with each other, and then they go behind a cloud cover, and I was like, Dad, did you see that? And he's like, no, I didn't see anything. And then they come out of the other side of the cloud cover, and they're still kind of bouncing around each other. And I was like, look. And he's like, he's looking way up when I'm trying to point out, because at the altitude they were at, it couldn't have been but maybe like 1,500 feet, maybe 2,000 feet. Just from the horizon level that I could tell, I'm guessing that's about how high up they were. But that helicopter is right underneath of them, going around the Oakers the whole time. And I'm like, look, there they are. And he's still looking up for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. But I just remember that, and like, I'm watching these 2 objects do things that our current technology physically cannot do at a very high rate of speed, making these instantaneous turns and these almost barrel rolls and things like that. And then there's this military Black Hawk helicopter just escorting them around the mountain. But that's not like the only thing I've seen. That's just the most memorable because it happened in the daytime. I'm talking like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Where I'm watching this, and my mind is just like melting at how fucking crazy this is that I'm witnessing this with my own eyes.
Yeah. Really, the only thing that I've ever seen out here personally is we were driving. This was last August, maybe. So Kara had a booth over here at it was the Lantern Festival. And so they light the lanterns off, and they all go. And then we waited there until everybody left, and there's like 10,000 people or something out there. And so everybody left, and so we had to wait for everybody to leave to break down our shit, like the tent setup and all of her stuff that she had there. So we were leaving there at like 11:30, 11:45, almost midnight. And it was just right out here at the Deseret Peak complex out there.
Yeah.
And we were driving home, and then looked out there and saw this big bright ball in the sky. And we just watched all these lanterns get lit, and then it's a big round, it's about 2 feet in diameter round balloon that gets heated by a little candle, and then it burns out in like 30 seconds or something like that, and then falls back down to the ground. So we were driving home, and I was like, oh look, somebody let, another lantern as we were driving by. And so I stopped because I was like, wait, that's pretty big though. And so it almost looked like one of those lanterns was bigger, so it almost looked like the moon. The way that it was shining, it was kind of a yellowish white, but then it was changing light frequency from one side to the other, and it would almost go into a C shape and then back to like a round shape and then back to a C shape as we were looking at it. And it was in the sky for probably 5 minutes as we were watching it. Stopped in one spot and then moved to another spot, stopped there, and then moved to another spot, stopped there. And as we were driving home, and then all of a sudden it just blinked out, went away. So, could have been a lantern that was just fucking burning forever, but didn't look like the rest of the lanterns that we just watched 10,000 of them go up into the sky.
I'm not inclined to believe that it was, because especially with you having been there for a while and having to wait for everybody to go, you probably watched thousands of these fucking lanterns move and do what they do.
Yeah.
Versus you see this one thing and it draws your attention and it's hanging in the air for 5 minutes, like you said. But you also said those candles burn out in like 30 seconds. And I know they do, because that's how you stop from having like wildfires.
Right.
Is because they have those fast burning wicks in them. So it's like, it just doesn't stand to reason it would have been a lantern. It was something else. And the fact that it's essentially changing shape, I think maybe that's just the angle of view on it, because like Bob Lazar talks about, the one time he did watch that spacecraft take off, it had like a purple, pinkish, glowing hue around it, and he described something similar because it's obstructing your field of view, because it's anti-gravity.
Yeah.
So, makes perfect sense. Dude, you probably saw fucking aliens.
So maybe they were signaled by the lanterns, so they came down to check out what the fuck was going on.
They're just like, look at these fucking apes lighting shit on fire and just throwing it into the sky.
What fucking morons. No, it lasted from the time it took us to drive from Deseret Complex all the way to here is probably about 15, 20 minutes.
That's a long time.
And we saw it like right when we left there, and we were in traffic because there's 10,000 people trying to leave this stupid place with one road that goes in and out. And so we were kind of stuck there, and that's why I noticed it was like, oh, another person lit off the lantern. And so we were watching it for quite a while. But it seemed like it was pretty high up in the sky, but it was on this side of the mountains. So I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's UAP because it's unidentified aerial phenomenon.
It is. It's a phenomenon because it changed shape and color, hue.
Okay, I'm classifying that as I did. I saw UAP.
Yeah, it was probably being piloted by aliens. They're probably looking out the window going, dude, we could probe so many motherfuckers right now.
Dude, I feel like I'm doing fucking so many probings tonight.
And then there's the one stoner alien who's like, you know how many of these motherfuckers we could be probing right now instead of fucking just flying around? Yeah, I've, like I said, have seen multiple instances just off of the back porch of my house, and even one instance where there was 3 objects flying around and again doing crazy maneuvers, and they're so high up because like where my house is, there is still a flight plan for planes flying at full altitude, so 35,000 feet up, 5 miles up essentially, where they fly overhead. But my eyes are good enough that I can distinguish between an airplane and something else, because airplanes have your white, red, and blue light, which gives them a distinct glow that flashes, versus these objects that are solid color and are making these crazy bank moves that planes can't make. It's like, oh no, that's not a fucking commercial aircraft. That's something else. I can't say like, oh, it's aliens, or oh, it's an interdimensional craft. Like, but no, it's something unidentified, and it's not an airplane.
Yeah.
I even remember one time where Yeg and I saw one at work.
Really?
And I had to like convince him of what he was actually looking at. So again, when I was a smoker, I would go out to the smoke shack before we would start shift, and it was still cold outside. This was like early winter, and it was still really dark out in the morning. So I'm outside having a smoke, and he walks by the smoke shack on the way to the break room. And so we're standing there bullshitting for a minute, and I was like, all right, let's go inside. It's fucking cold out here. And I look up, and I can see this orange streak just going right across the sky. And I'm like, Yeg, look. And at first, he's just kind of looking around. And I'm like, no, look right here. And I had to like grab him and point him. And he's like, what the fuck is that? Is that a plane? I was like, nope, not a chance. It seemed really low as well, like maybe 8,000 feet, which is comparatively low for an airplane. And where we're in the east-west flight plan for Airport 2 for Salt Lake, you see a lot of airplanes, but they're small aircraft, like single engine kind of thing.
Little Cessnas.
Yeah, and they're flying low enough that you can almost see the pilot's face when they're going to land.
Yeah.
This was not that. It was definitely not a commercial aircraft, because any commercial aircraft in that flight plan is trying to land on the north-south strip. And they're still pretty high up for that, but not that high. And it's hard to explain. But yeah, it was just like glowing orange, not super bright, but just bright enough to go, yeah, that's orange. And we're watching it, like we're standing there in awe, watching it just like zip across the sky in a slightly upward angle. And then all of a sudden it goes up and banks left and goes east, just like instantaneously, just whoosh, and goes towards the east side. And within probably 20 or 30 seconds, it was gone out of sight. Couldn't see it anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
To get from where we work to get out of a sight line, which would be over the mountains on the east side, you're talking maybe 16 or 17 miles.
Yeah.
And it was literally seconds until it was so small that I couldn't see it. And again, there was no sound. Like, it literally was kind of right above like Taylorsville, West Jordan area. So close enough that if it was a plane, it would be really loud. Yeah. But couldn't hear anything. It's like that Travis Walton poop. No sound.
Covert dumping.
Covert dumping. So another thing with Dugaway that I can't help but think about is proximity to Skinwalker Ranch. So Skinwalker Ranch is, 2 hours, 40 minutes away from here-ish?
Yeah.
And Dugaway is another, 30, 35 minutes to the east, to the west?
Yeah, about that.
So about 3.5 hours with traffic?
In between the two, yeah.
So
or if you're in a spacecraft, like 10 seconds.
If that. Yeah, you blink and you're there.
Yeah.
You know, when it's anti-gravity, you're not bound by time.
Yeah.
You're just like, fuck time.
Let's go to Skinwalker. Boom. There. Well, yeah, I mean, like I was saying with the whole, like, Area 51, Roswell, like, all these things are... And also, like, the nuclear test range is right there, too. Does that have something to do with it also? I mean, seeing as how so many UFO sightings or UAP sightings happen in the like close proximity to nuclear facilities.
Yeah.
You know, if they're detonating, I mean, they detonated, when I was looking up, almost 1,000 nuclear tests out there in that nuclear testing site, which is in that same general area as as Area 51 is located. Could it be drawing these things, or maybe they're doing it because they know these things are attracted to the nuclear testing, and so they're setting off nuclear devices and then attracting these things and then studying them, as they come in.
Yeah, that's always been a really interesting proposition to me, because going back to all the stories about these soldiers and everybody who work at these different nuclear silos, and these UFOs will basically hover over a specific silo and shut down that one nuke, but there's multiple nukes. Like, why didn't they shut them all down? Which kind of raises the question to me of why would they just pick the one? And it brings about like a time travel paradox in my mind, where I go, maybe they really are us from the future, and they knew this specific nuke was about to get fired off at this specific enemy and was going to trigger this big world-changing event. So they were like, no, shut this one down. Can't happen now. That's a whole nother spiel that I really haven't thought through a whole lot, but it just makes me question why they'll pick just these ones. But the idea of them being attracted to nuclear weapons makes my mind kind of race of why they're so interested in that specific thing rather than, like a factory that makes bullets or any other weapon of destruction, or like the factory that makes all the M1 Abrams tanks or whatever it is. They're only curious about nuclear weapons. And my working theory on that is that there's nothing more detrimental to the fabric of time-space than nuclear fission, which is what these weapons do. So it kind of makes me wonder if every time one of these is detonated, does it create a tear in time-space? And that's what they're drawn to, and that's what they're like, okay, we got to make sure these monkeys don't fuck everything up for everybody.
Yeah. It's like you see your cat pull out a knife, and it's like, oh shit, I better take that knife away from this cat.
Or get rid of the cat. Furthermore, where the fuck did you get opposable thumbs that you can grip a knife?
It's called evolution. These cats now have fucking opposable thumbs, and we can wield knives.
If your cat ever pulls out a knife, I demand a video. Be like, that's the most gangster cat ever.
Call him fucking Paco, dude.
So, as a whole, do you believe Bob Lazar's story?
I do. I believe that, yeah. I haven't seen anything that makes me think this guy's full of shit. Like, the fact that his story's been so consistent, and facts that have come out after his story has been on record for 30 years, and then, some of the things that he says happen there are coming to light as, oh yeah, these things are real. I mean, it just leads, like I said, it leads to his credibility. So yeah, I believe that he was there, and I believe that he worked on technology that we, as maybe our country and our government, were unaware of and didn't know how they worked, for sure.
I agree. I believe his story, and I think the number one most vindicating thing for his story specifically is that in 2020, during all the COVID madness, the U.S. government came out and said, yes, we are in possession of vehicles made off-world.
Off planet.
But we were all so busy with COVID, nobody paid attention, and I'm like flipping out, like, is nobody seeing this?
Me too.
This is in the Washington fucking Post. This is a huge publication, and the government's fully admitting to it, and you've had Bob Lazar over here suffering for fucking 30 years, 32 years at this point, and again, if I was him, I would have celebrated like crazy that night. Like, yes.
I would have had 3 beers, dude.
All 3. Maybe a shot, too. Or a half one.
No, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen anything that makes me feel like he's a liar. You know, all the things that I've seen. Of course, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but like,
I do. It's fine.
Yeah,
No.
seems like a great dude. I mean, can you imagine having Bob Lazar as like your uncle or something?
It would be interesting, but where I'm kind of like that don't pester people kind of person. Like, I would want to know so many things and like describe it to me in detail, but at the same time, he's probably exhausted of talking about it, and he wouldn't want to deal with it from his family.
Well, I would just be more inclined to be like, hey, Uncle Bob, can you come over here and help me work on my car?
Dude, I saw that you're really good about putting jets on cars.
Yeah.
I have a Miata. Let's see what we can do.
Just the wild shit you can concoct when you're that smart.
Well, even like the stuff he was building when he was a teenager, like putting little jets on bicycles and I remember seeing a video of like one of the cars he built where he had this huge fucking jet on the top and it was just like mock Jesus fast. I'm like, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, Uncle Bob, how much do I need? How much money do I need to be able to put like 1,000-pound thrust jet on the top of my truck? He's like, well, you're going to need about $8,000 and it's going to take about this long. Like, are you willing to help? Yeah. Cool.
What do you got going on for the next year?
He's like, I could do this shit in a weekend. Even like the Jeremy Corbell was, because they've become good friends since the documentary and all that, and he was talking about this like machine that you could bring in and it would sterilize your groceries during COVID time, and it costed like so much money. And he was talking to Bob Lazar about it on the phone. Bob's like, don't buy it, I'll build you one. And then like a week later he gets a big box from Bob Lazar and it's like the same thing, but he built it for like $50 or something like that. And it was like, that's bananas to me that you're that fucking smart that you can just be like, oh yeah, I could build that in a day for nothing. I got scraps in the garage. You know that box with all the cables in it? I use that shit.
Scrap like all your junk drawer fucking amenities.
And you could basically build like a UV radiation machine to sterilize things. Like, I ain't that fucking smart.
I need to go to MIT, dude.
Right?
No, I need to finish high school first, though, I guess.
You ever think that maybe the reason he doesn't remember when he graduated MIT is because he's so fucking intelligent that he has so much floating around in his mind at any given time that he's like, that's not even in the periphery of being important of when I graduated.
Yeah.
Because he went to MIT and Caltech.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying is like, you imagine having that much information in your brain that just all the non-essential shit gets booted out for storage space capacity.
Yeah, I mean, like when you first said it, I kind of prose it as like the emotional damage and everything that came with like having worked at S4 and dealt with alien stuff, but then compound it with just being so fucking hyper intelligent that you're just like, yeah, who cares about dates?
Yeah.
I can build a UV radiation machine out of scraps.
I wonder if anybody asked Stephen Hawking what year he graduated. It must have been 1988.
It was 1964. If you'll excuse me, I have to board a plane to an island.
I just shit my pants.
I think that's a little more Joe Biden. I just got my butt wiped. So here's an important question, and it's not directly Area 51. I think it's more on the whole. Do you think the U.S. government will ever make full disclosure?
I would like to say yes, but until something very dramatic happens with like almost short of like full like alien invasion, I don't think they would. Just for the fact that they want to keep that technology as secretive as possible. Anything that they have in development and have developed that hasn't been released yet, I don't think it's in their best interest to divulge all that information. I was really surprised when they did come out and say that they have these crafts that they've, recovered so far. But I think that it was so much. There's been so much pressure, and so many upstanding people that have come out as whistleblowers, like Commander Fravor and all these other people that are saying that they've witnessed all these things. I think at this point, it seems like a pretty good cover for them to admit that these things are real. Especially if they have like all these different technologies that they're trying to keep under wraps, and people witness them and say, "Oh yeah, that's a UAP," when really it's their own technology. I mean, it's might be an easier scapegoat. So I don't think that they will up front come out and say anything more than they really have.
So I kind of think that, well, there's 2 points. For one, we as a society would have to be able to come together and basically figure out a way to give the government amnesty for all the shitty things that they've done to keep that secret under wraps. Because there's been a lot of terrible shit. I mean, there was that doctor. He was I believe he's a neurosurgeon. He was bringing suit against the government for hundreds of cases of brain trauma from soldiers who were guarding these nuclear test sites and nuclear facilities that have gotten brain trauma from UAP encounters. Like when they come over and zap the nuke or whatever, some of these guys, like, it fucks them up. Some of them have died. And they've, for some reason, all kind of gone to see the same doctor, and they've all kind of told these same stories, and he's the one who brought suit against the government. And so things like that, or like the people that have been killed in the name of secrecy or had their lives ruined in the name of secrecy, we would have to collectively agree to just like kind of give them amnesty and be like, okay, you did all these fucked up things in the name of secrecy, but if you come out with it, it's not all forgiven, but it's all a wash. We won't hold you accountable for it.
Yeah.
I think that's like the number one way that would actually work. Not that the government gives a shit about us, but it's more to the fact of them kind of feeling a safety net to go, oh, okay, maybe they are ready to hear all this shit. But I believe all of it is being slow leaked, incredibly slowly. And I do think there are a lot of plants within the situation. Whereas you look at a guy like Rick Doty. Do you know who that is?
I've seen his name in the some of the articles I've read, but I don't know his story.
Yeah, he was part of this, I believe it was Air Force, but this intelligence group that would investigate all these strange phenomenon and alien encounters and things like that. So he allegedly was basically like one of the lead investigators on these things that would happen. And since he retired, he came out and he tells all these stories, and it was his job to purposely disinform the public, which leads credence to the idea that he's currently disinforming us, but maybe he's informing us on the things that he disinformed. It's a very weird conundrum where I think of a guy like him as like a plant of like, okay, you disinformed for so long, and then you've come out and said that it was your job to disinform. Now we want you to leak the actual truth. Nobody's going to believe you anyway, but that's our slow way of leaking that information out. And I also have heard these kind of crazy theories with movies being a way to slow leak, like especially in the case of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where allegedly there were these government men on scene while the movie was being made and kind of informed Spielberg on certain things that he had to throw in there. And that's kind of been a tale through Hollywood for a while. And I kind of go, why not? Wouldn't that be like the most effective way to inform people, is through their preferred source of consumed media? Which, if you're a big movie buff, you're going to go, yeah, I've watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I've watched E.T., I've watched Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, all these Spielberg movies that have to do with aliens. And what if they're actually telling the truth, you know?
Yeah.
But I think things like allowing people like David Fravor or, what's the other guy who just testified? David Grush.
Grush.
They're all David. Like, something really cool about that name, I think.
Yeah.
It just means you're a stand-up guy.
Stand-up guy.
Yeah,
Trustable.
You tell the truth. You're honest. But yeah, I think allowing these people the space to go out and tell their stories and talk about their encounters without shutting it down or trying to manipulate it or control the flow of that information is kind of part of a slow leak. Like, they could have put a gag order on those people. They could stop them from talking.
Yeah.
But here we are. We're having, let's see, we had, 2 or 3 different congressional hearings about UFOs and UAPs over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think we're starting to get to that point where the populace as a whole wants the answers so bad that we are willing to actually kind of give that amnesty, or to at least just accept all the heinous things that were done in the name of secrecy. But we want the answers so bad that we're willing to kind of give up that aspect to have those answers.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you're going to do something like that, that's going to change, or that could alter the belief system of a whole population. Like, if you look in the early 50s and 60s, it would probably seem like more people were, like, religious. And I don't know, if you look into most religions, God is the creator of the world, and that's what exists. But if you throw into the account that they're, oh yeah, by the way, they're aliens, I'm like, wait, well, where does our God stand in this whole, in that? So a lot of people wouldn't be open to, would freak out at the aspect of there being an outside intelligence other than in this world that we know. So by slowly, through pop culture, getting people used to the idea, and now if you talk to most people, they're open to the idea of extraterrestrial life, and most people believe it as fact, which, there's a super high probability. It's the chances of there being life outside of our own planet are undeniably great,
Yeah,
and most people know that now, whereas, maybe 50 years ago, people weren't couldn't think in that way,
I agree that the religious paradigm
Yeah.
is a big problem, especially when one of the richest and most powerful corporations in the world is the Vatican. Mm-hmm. There's a certain detriment that's going to come with, like, a full disclosure of saying aliens are real. And that's not to say that God doesn't exist, or there's no heaven or hell or the devil or any of that. It's just saying, like, yeah, there are creatures from other worlds or other timelines or whatever it is. I don't think it would break down the system in the way that people believe it would. I think, like you're saying, where, as in, 50 or 60 years ago, people were so religiously inclined, but now most people vastly aren't, that it would be so much easier now to just be like, yeah, dude, aliens are real.
Yeah.
But I think that the number one thing that would, well, not number one, there's a couple of things. The biggest things, the biggest factors that would stop them from just like a full disclosure is, one, you have to weaponize it. You have to be able to take whatever tech you got from them and be able to turn it into a weapon. That's the government's number one thing, is weapons.
Foremost, of course.
Absolutely. Second is you have to be able to monetize it. If you can't make money on it, why put it out? Mm. That's going to be everybody's prospect. Even, like, let's say Lockheed Skunk Works was able to reverse engineer alien spacecraft, and they made a fleet of them. They're going to sell those motherfuckers, like, for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And they're also going to be the bare end, bottom of the barrel models that they can still control, and basically stop software updates.
Yeah.
So you have to, subscribe.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is control, and it is control over the populace. You can't stop the way we think or the way we feel, but you can stop how much we know. And if you stop how much you know, you can stop how much you control. And that also kind of plays into that religion paradigm where you're taught this text and this is what is. Don't question anything outside, stay in the lines. And that's another sense of control. But I think those are the three main reasons why they wouldn't.
So I was just thinking of this when you were talking about the doctor that came out with all these patients that are having brain injuries from close contact to UAPs. Did any of those people have copper-colored hair? This is related to a Travis Walton question.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the Skinwalker Ranch episode, go back and you'll get the context on that one. Yeah, there's something about getting zapped by a UFO that just like when you're fucking 78 years old, your hair is still beautiful copper color, which is not natural to any human being.
I would say it's uniquely Travis Walton. And maybe that's why he was singled out.
It could be.
I mean, if you're of the belief that aliens really are like collecting DNA samples from all these different breeds or blood types of humans or their DNA structure, they say, "Whoa, look at this fucking guy with this crazy copper-colored hair. Let's get some of that."
Also, when he poops, it doesn't make a sound. It's just
I think that has more to do with the probes.
just a blown out semi-tire down there is what you're saying? He doesn't even grunt.
Just speculation.
Just pure speculation. Yeah, it's that also kind of plays into the disinformation is Travis Walton is a very sharp guy. He's very well spoken.
Yeah.
He speaks very plainly. He doesn't seem to really embellish, even though he's been telling the same story for almost 50 years. He still tells it the exact same way with the same details, and again, very well-spoken guy. But most of the other people who get, air quotes, abducted by aliens are the dumbest fucking people on the planet. And I feel like that's a disinformation thing, where the aliens are talking to their government handlers like, hey, we need like 100 people across the country for DNA samples. They're like, okay, you need to stop in Kansas, Missouri, Alabama. No offense to anybody from those states. But that's where you find, let's be real, the dumbest white trash people that nobody's going to fucking believe. They're like, I got abducted by aliens and they put something in my butt. You're like, shut up, Timmy.
Why would aliens want to see what's in your butt?
I don't know, but they did.
It was hot.
It was super hot. But I always thought that was kind of a weird conundrum of like, they're never going to abduct like a really intelligent person, because that person has credibility.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I guess when like we as humans go to try to capture an animal, we just take whichever one that we can catch, but like there's definitely ones that are out there that are smart enough not to be caught.
For sure.
But if you're looking at an alien, they can catch whoever the fuck they want, I would think.
They have the technology.
Yeah.
They're probably out there right now, right outside the window, just like when these guys are done and they push stop.
They're getting stuff.
They're getting stuff. You know what? It's been a while. Let's go. Yeah, no, it's a funny thing. So, yeah, Area 51 is it's one of those things that I hope in my lifetime that they'll finally come out with the truth and be like, yeah, Area 51 is just like the hub for all the alien shit we do.
Yeah.
Will we ever see it? Probably not, but I know me personally, I'm willing to accept that amount of information of what's really out there. I feel like even though I only have a tiny little bit of thinking meat between my ears, I can handle the truth about that.
Yeah. And it's also something that I want to eventually, like, go do the stupid UFO road trip, like on the movie Paul, where they go to the black mailbox, which I guess isn't there anymore. But like Rachel, Nevada, is extraterrestrial highway is what
Yeah.
it's called. Just go do the stupid alien thing just for funsies, you know.
Yeah, that was one of the things about that reporter I was talking about who did the big expose because he went to the raid. He was like, Rachel, Nevada is such a small, tiny little blink and you miss it town with a population of like 150 people because it's the closest place to Area 51. All of their resources were just vacuumed out overnight.
Yeah.
But the people who work there and run businesses there, they made a killing because they like quadrupled all their prices.
Yeah.
And they made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
I was like, I would too.
I'd be doing like a yearly thing, like
Raid 2024, dude. I'd be the one starting the campaign.
well, let's start it right now, dude. Everybody that's listening.
Yeah, but I don't have a business out there. I can't make. Oh, dude, you know what? I got it. I got a truck. I got a trailer. We just buy a shitload of bottled water from Costco. We're out there selling them $12 a piece.
I got a merchandiser. You can sell T-shirts. Area 51 Raid 2025.
Hashtag Area 51 Raid 2025. That's going on Instagram. Yeah, no, this was an interesting topic, and I do eventually want to bring it down and do another episode where we talk about some of the other secret bases that we mentioned, like Dulce, New Mexico, Wright-Patterson, Dugway. I want to delve a little bit more into that when I've done a little bit more research. Maybe I'll just go out there and see if I get a gun pointed at me.
Probably would.
Yeah, I'm not shy.
What's the actor's name that's... he was like part of the Brat Pack.
Judd Nelson?
No.
Emilio?
The one that's like Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, yeah.
So he had like a... I don't know if you ever saw that. He had like his own... It was like a... Almost like a paranormal TV show. It was one season, maybe like... I can't remember what it was called. It was like him and his son. They just went around and they did like paranormal investigations, like looking into like Area 51 and shit like that. But they came to Dugway and tried to just like get some footage just near the gate, and they got told to leave. But even Rob Lowe is a big time act. I mean, if you don't know who Rob Lowe is, if you meet him,
his career is kind of dead, but people know who the fuck Rob Lowe is.
yeah.
I mean, dude's almost 60 and he's fucking handsome still.
Yeah, the only actor that has a porn name that
Without doing porn.
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe. I like it. Yeah, no, this is a good one.
Yeah.
I had fun.
We should definitely do the other sites.
We should. I feel like we can do that in like a one long episode kind of thing.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. Anyway, thanks for doing this one.
For sure.
For sure. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.